We're going to give everybody a break from the Charles Bediako stuff until the second segment. And in the first segment, we're going to talk about somebody that is not the least bit controversial at all.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama Internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We'll talk about Mazda in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for joining us every day because you know what? You help make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network there is. Kudos. So, Jimmy, we do have to talk about the Bediako situation. It's really not a situation anymore. But that's the hilarious part of all of it. We'll talk
Former
about
player
that.
Charles Bediako.
Alabama legend Charles Bediako. He goes out on top after beating Auburn. I can't,
He
I like
go out. He went out. He went out nicely.
So, and then we will also talk about the potential for some big games being canceled on Alabama's future football schedules, which disappoints us and doesn't shock us and actually makes us happy in another sense. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Right now, though, we're going to get with your roster countdown, and we're going to talk about a guy who nobody will have any strong opinions about whatsoever. This will be the easiest one ever. It's going to be Jimmy.
Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. is number 27, meaning that's 27 days until spring practice starts, and he's the 27th ranked player on the roster. First, I want to brag about, obviously, we're going to get to the off-the-field stuff. First, I want to brag about how good he is. I mean, I know this is a guy Luke and I are both really high on. I think he's one of the better backup players on the team. He's not going to be a starter this year. I don't believe that, not with Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard returning at safety and Red Morgan returning at Husky. I don't think Dre can move ahead of them. However, Kane Womack and his defense, they play a lot of guys. They play a lot of reserves. I think Dre Kirkpatrick is a guy we're going to see most every week out there getting snaps, maybe even with the ones. He's a playmaker. He's instinctive. I have loved this take from the day it happened. And then he had a great Alabama-Mississippi high school all-star game and has frankly just never stopped making plays every time he's given the opportunity. I think he's a heck of a player. I'm so glad that he stuck it out. And I guess now we're going to talk about him sticking it out because, as everyone knows, he was suspended after playing in 8 games and never returned, even in the postseason. It was a long suspension. And people, we can discuss the merits of that. But the point is, where I'm really proud of the kid, let's be honest, most kids would have left. Most kids would have said, oh, yeah, I can't play. You suspended me. I'm leaving. That's how most kids would have handled it. But he didn't. He obviously took his punishment well, put his head down and decided to get better. Didn't enter the portal, coming back to the team this spring. I think he's going to be not only a better player for it, a better person for it, a better player for it, because there's obviously some maturity there. And I think it's just great in terms of how DeBoer handled it, and even better in terms of how Dre handled it.
Yeah. Well, we assume Dre handled it well. I'm not going to. Number one, we do know he's still on the team, right? I mean, he is still on the team. Okay.
Yeah, he's back.
And we assume he handled it well. And I think reports are it was handled well enough. So I'm cool with that. But I do want to see, contrary to a lot of other fans' beliefs, I mean, we want our players to be good people too.
Sure.
And I don't care if they're choir boys. I want them. There's got to be a happy medium. Like, I don't want them to be like a certain offensive.
Don't you think probably some choir boys are actually jerks?
Oh, I listen.
There's no way there's 1,000% batting average there. I'm sure most choir boys are actually better than most walking around people, but not all of them. No way. Statistically, no way.
Yeah, that is why do choir boys get a pass?
Yeah, we go too far with praising choir boys. I mean, there's just no way 1,000%. I went to Catholic school, and some of the guys in the school actually sang. And let me tell you, they're not all lined up to be future saints.
We had a glee club at Indian Springs. Some of them were turds. I mean, it's all right. I mean, not all of them, and some of them were good people.
I'm just saying we should come up with another saying for perfectly behaved people.
Look, it's a good. If Dre Kirkpatrick were in the choir, would he have even been busted? That is a Nietzsche level, gotta think about it kind of thing.
Maybe that's the punishment.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, you got arrested. You're off the team. Go sing in the choir.
There you go. I like that. You've got to sing. Give me a choir song. What's a choir? I don't even know what a choir song is.
Amazing Grace, maybe. That's the go-to.
It was funny today. We'll get into it in the Bediako segment, but there was a big lump. I'm in a group thing with some Aubs and other BAMs and everything, and we were laughing because, the Aubs were like, well, I mean, this is why I hate Nate Oates. He didn't even suspend Brandon Miller for a game. And I was like, well, he didn't do anything. And he was like, yeah, but he could have, somebody died. I was like, well, then in that case, suspend everybody on every team everywhere. Yeah. I mean, if we're going, and he was like, well, y'all do everything. And so some of our Bama guys were saying, yeah, we know we're responsible for everything. We're responsible for 9/11. We're responsible for the space shuttle blowing up and, all this stuff. And one of our guys said, yeah, it wasn't Judas. It was us. I was like, yes, it wasn't Judas that betrayed Jesus. It was Updikeus. I love it. Updikeus seems like a great, terrible Greek name to me. But anyway, I'm getting off target. Look, I want Dre Kirkpatrick back. I'm fine with him getting another shot. He it was bad what he did, but he paid a price. And he got busted. And he paid a pretty big, hefty price, to be honest with you. And so I'm all for, let's make this redemption season. I think he can do it. I think he's talented. I know he's got a nose for the ball. I know he's got a penchant for turnovers. So he can be very instrumental on this defense, if you ask me. I'm looking forward to his presence. I do hope, though, that he has learned a lesson. I can't vouch for that one way or another.
I just think the fact he didn't enter the portal. The fact that he didn't enter the portal to me is indicative that he accepted the punishment. And I think when you accept punishment, kids tend to bounce back from that and bounce back better. Like, I did wrong. I got punished. I'm going to do better.
That's fair. And entering the portal would have also given the appearance, rightly or wrongly, that he was running from this, which is ironic because that's how he got in trouble in the first place. But
that's funnier than our choir stuff.
Everybody's like, yeah, don't cut out the choir talk. Why are you hating on Glee Club, Luke? That's what I'll get next time. Luke hates the Glee Club on Twitter is what's going to be trending. So what if I do?
But if Dre had left, it would have been understandable that he left because he wants to start. He's not going to start here next year either. I don't believe so. I mean, not with Keon returning, Bray returning, Red Morgan returning. He's more than likely going to be in a similar position he was to a year ago, though with probably more snaps and more responsibility. You feel even better about, look at the backup safeties all of a sudden being a strength of the team. This is one of the deeper parts of the team in terms of guys who could potentially start. Who's going to be safety number 3? I would say it's Zay Mincy because he's the oldest kid and he's obviously already played a lot and he's looked good. It might be Ivan Taylor, who really came on in the bowl season. He redshirted he didn't play as much during the season. The most snaps he played all year were actually in the bowl games against Oklahoma and Indiana. He could be safety number 3. And then there's Dre Kirkpatrick that we're talking about now that I think probably borderline good enough to be a 1. And that hasn't even got to superstar incoming prospect Jyra Edwards. And I'll be kind of shocked if Jyra Edwards doesn't get off the bus ready to play. So safety, pretty deep position, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of guys ready to play and be starters. This may be the deepest position on the whole ball club.
That's a great point about Jyra Edwards coming in too, because while I do believe in Dre Kirkpatrick. Again, got to see him a lot in high school. In the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, people remember, I think he had a fumble recovery and an interception or something. I mean, he's just, he's around the ball and he's got the lineage. I mean, his dad played pro ball for a while. His dad's an Alabama high school legend and an Alabama legend. So I think he's got all the tools, but at the same time, he's sort of in the middle here. Like, he's not beating out one of the starters, And then on the backside, you got somebody like Jyra Edwards coming in, and Edwards is like, it's like that Simpsons episode when Daryl Strawberry went up to Homer Simpson, and Homer said, "Hey, you play left field, I play left field. Are you better than me?" And Daryl Strawberry said, "I've never met you, but yes." And that's how Jyra Edwards is to everybody. I've never met you before, but I'm better than you. And he's also correct. So I think we're all on board the Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. train. I'm hopeful that things will get turned around for him. I'm not going to set myself up with these lofty expectations just yet, but I'm hopeful for him. And here's the thing about everybody loves a redemption story, but you can't have redemption unless you screwed up. So he's done the screwing up part. That's the good news. That's over. Now all that's left is to redeem. Nobody redeems themselves from doing something good.
And I would say, in terms of being frustrated over playing time, which is probably coming for a few safeties. I mean, Zay Mincy, Ivan Taylor, Dre Kirkpatrick, Jyra Edwards, they're all going to want more snaps this fall. But I would just tell them, hold on. Bray and Keon are seniors. Red Morgan could potentially leave early for the NFL. That could potentially happen. I'm not going to say right now, too early to say, but it could potentially happen. Alabama could be in the market, could have 3 openings at safety and not have to go to the portal because Jyra, Dre, Ivan, and Zay will all be ready to be starters. And you go to the portal, then they're going to leave. So I think Alabama's just in great shape at safety. Love the starters, love the reserves, and all these reserve safeties, killer special teams players. And Dre's been good on special teams. He's a special teams player of the week last year, 1 week. Oh, your mute luck continues.
God dang it.
Your mute luck continues.
Yeah, I'm not going to even say what I was going to say.
Yes.
That's me punishing myself.
You suspended yourself for 30 seconds.
Suspended myself for 10 seconds. Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. That's true for so many players in Alabama history. Look, I'm going to go back in the Wayback Machine. Maybe my favorite player of all time. It's close. Derek Thomas. He always did more than you could possibly imagine. He was incredible. I miss him. He was awesome. I wish we could have him. And if Charles Bediako had won his case, maybe we could get some Derek Thomas's back. But woe is us. These moments remind us what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court or off the field, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion into every model over here at Mazda, right over here at the Mazda shop. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there, it makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you, no matter what Jimmy Stein tells you. Then there's Wayfair. I love Wayfair too because they got a bunch of stuff that you need. It's stuff you want. It's also stuff you need. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks. Might as well. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding to mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh. Look, I love that I could find pieces that match my style without even spending a fortune. That's what I'm talking about. Get organized, get refreshed, and back on track this year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things homes. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home, Jimmy Stein guarantee. So Charles Bediako.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right, so he's gone. He's not going to be with us anymore, and that is it. That sucks. I'm going to say this: I think a lot of people think Alabama fans are up in arms, and we're not.
Not true.
At least I'm not. I'm sort of okay, it makes sense to me that he shouldn't be here. And now a lot of the calls, especially from Auburn folks on social media, are, well, now we got to get those wins vacated. That's not happening. See, what you don't understand is this. We would not have played him without the TRO. If the TRO had said, Alabama can play him at his own risk, my bet is we would not have played him. It's not even my bet. It's a Jimmy Stein guarantee we would not have played him.
Agreed.
But because we had that, and because it was up in the air, and because it's not, I mean, I've seen a couple of folks saying, I'm glad we can put this nasty chapter of basketball behind. There's still pros playing, you know this, right?
Yeah.
And I still see people saying, well, none of them actually played college basketball first. So you're telling me that you can play as a pro as long as you never played college basketball first? I thought the whole problem was the pro part, not the college basketball first part. That's what bothers me. And it's, again, I had some Auburn fans saying, oh, y'all are still upset about Euro pros. I was like, they were like, they're not really helping that much. Bediako didn't help that much. Bediako was like, on that plus minus thing, he was a minus for the Auburn.
It's not like he was Alabama's best player. I mean, he's no LeBaron Philon. I mean,
yeah.
So, I'm not upset at all about Bediako not being Graham. I'm not upset at all. I haven't really heard from Alabama fans I know well who are upset. But what I am upset about, and I'm going to become even more vocal about to everyone's chagrin, is the fact that pros elsewhere continue to play. And Bediako's case, I understand and appreciate the differences in facts between his case and other cases. I would just argue it wasn't enough of a difference. And that the way it's going, about a year from now, we're going to see someone similarly situated to Bediako approved for eligibility by the NCAA. That's where, and then we're going to get upset all over again. But I'm not upset because I don't think Charles Bediako should be eligible to play college sports. And I said that initially. I don't think he should. But I also don't think the Baylor kids should. And I don't think the G League kids that were approved. I don't care that they didn't go to college first. I don't care that they signed with the Ignite and not with an actual NBA team. They were in the same professional league Bediako played in, the G League. They were paid to play basketball. That should make them ineligible to play college basketball, period. But they're not. The NCAA said they could play. So again, now I'm getting all upset again. But I'm not upset that Bediako can't play because I don't think he should, nor any of the other professional basketball players play in this sport. What we need is a uniformity of rules. That's apparently not coming from the NCAA. And we can't have this state court rules this, and the Illinois state court says this, and the Florida state court says this. We can't have that. We need either Congress or collective bargaining. One of those two things has to happen. And we're not going to go on politics, but I don't depend on Congress to,
do much.
I don't depend on them to get anything right or be helpful about anything. They're too busy, arguing about silly stuff and not really helping what Americans care about, which is Charles Bediako.
I'm going back to the text chain with me and some other Bama fans and Auburn fans, and a couple of them just up in arms. Well, at the very least, these games shouldn't count. I said, number one, that's not going to happen. You can just get that out of it's not going to happen, because if that were to happen, if the NCAA were to do that, guess what they'd be doing? They'd be violating something. They'd be doing something illegal, which is the whole reason everybody's talking about this now. So they can't trump an illegality with another illegality, I don't think. So, again, I'm fine with his being out. I really am. It doesn't bother me. It bothers me that there are other people who should also be out. And I'm like, I don't care if they help you or not. They just shouldn't be there. And the whole thing yesterday with the Charlie Baker guy for the NCAA saying, well, now, he's not taking away some teenager's dream. First of all, teenagers dream of many different things other than Charles Bediako, at least I hope. Secondly, he didn't take away a spot from a teenager to begin with, but you know who he is?
So dumb.
All these Euro pros coming over, taking away spots from American teenagers.
Exactly. Well, that's probably the best point of all right there. Bediako was taking a spot from no one. He was a fifth-year senior. And no one got booted out because he was in, and the moment the season is over, he's leaving. So he took a spot from no one. A spot was available that he took, and no one got bumped out. Noah Williamson lost minutes. That's the tragedy that happened here in terms of Bediako's effect on the sport is, one backup senior lost minutes. And
that made the sport better. Let's be honest, Noah Williamson losing some minutes actually made college basketball better for a little while. Now, I know I'm just teasing. I love you, Noah. Let me say one other thing. So my brother brought a point up in this same text chain that said, Auburn's average age last year was 34 and a half years old. And y'all are worried about this guy. And that's a good point. And my brother said, college athletics is over as we know it. So quit with all this junk. And an Auburn fan finally chimed in, you know what? Been saying that for about 3 years. College sports are dead. What we used to be passionate about is gone. And I said, okay, we can all kind of agree there. I'm not 100% on board with it, but I kind of get it. If that's the case, why all the righteous indignation about Charles Bediako? He didn't break it. He didn't do this. He saw there was a shot at a loophole. It wasn't even necessarily a loophole. There was a shot at a loophole, and he had some ground to stand on. It wasn't the most firm of ground, but there have been rules throughout society, throughout history, that have been terrible rules, but people always go, rules are rules. And they finally get challenged and somebody goes, yeah, this rule's stupid. And the rule as written is stupid because it needs to change to incorporate all pros. That's all that needs to happen. If you do that and there's an Alabama fan who's not on board with that, I will assist you in making fun of that Alabama fan.
There's this idea out there that these pros are playing because state courts somewhere allowed them to play. That's not true. The NCAA allowed them to play.
Correct.
They're the ones that open the door, and there's a slippery slope. We always talk about whenever there's change, there's unintended consequences. And without that Baylor case, the Bediako thing never would have happened. He never would have tried.
100%.
Alabama never would have tried. The Baylor case is what opened the door for the Bediako attempt. And who let the Baylor guy play? Not the courts in Texas, not the courts, not a local judge in Waco. The NCAA said the fact that he was drafted and his NBA rights are owned by someone is not going to stop us from allowing this kid to play college basketball. It's their fault. They opened the door. Bediako won't be the last guy who tries to get through that door that the NCAA itself has opened.
Let me tell you a quick story about heat transference. I had a friend who told me his brother, or his half-brother, was the best at heat transference he'd ever been around. And what we did with Baylor was it was heat transference from Baylor to Alabama, and Baylor gets off scot-free, and everybody's kind of like forgotten about Baylor's problem and focused on Alabama's. But the whole reason heat transference came up is because my friend was at home eating cereal and is at a condo or something, and the mom was there, the mom of everybody, and he's just eating cereal, and his half brother comes in, like it's 6 a.m. His brother comes in, he'd been partying all night, and the mom is like, "Where have you been? You had me worried all night." And he goes, "Well, I was staying at the other condo." "You didn't tell us you were going to do that. I can't believe it. I should ground you for da-da-da." And the other brother finally said, "Mom, I wanted to stay over here with y'all. I wanted to go to sleep at the other condo. I wanted to go to sleep badly. But I'll call him Steven. Steven had his bisexual girlfriend over with another girl, and they were making so much noise all night, I couldn't go to sleep. I had to go do something. I didn't want to wake y'all up." And my buddy Steven was eating, and he goes, and the mom took all the heat she was focusing on the one brother and focused it on my friend. And the other brother waved like this and left out the door. And that was heat transference. That's how heat transference works.
That's exactly what happened in the Bediako case. Exactly. I think you described the Bediako Baylor case perfectly.
Alabama was just sitting there eating cereal. Baylor comes in, says, "We've got a couple of girls over at the condo making too much noise." Next thing you know, all the media world is looking at us, and Baylor goes like this. And
next thing you know, there's 29 reporters at the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse.
I hope that story made sense. I think I almost accidentally said the actual names too, and I'm glad I didn't. All right, TurboTax. Perfect segue. You did it again, Luke. Sorry, I got to gather myself. This Bediako thing has me shook. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life this year. TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand off things and move on about your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person to connect online. if you want to, or you meet them in person or connect online. Either one you want to do. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. That can't be $150 all in. They ain't messing around over there at TurboTax. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Trust me, this is also a Luke Robinson guarantee. You don't want to mess around with the IRS. Luckily, I did my taxes almost a year ago. I still love that. I still love that line.
Taxes years ago, so now you don't have any problem with them.
No, that's also from The Simpsons. Homer was sitting there and everybody was talking about tax season. He goes, I did that more than a year ago. It was like, you got to do it every year. He goes, cracks me up. Okay, so Alabama and Ohio State. I mean, I don't know how concrete this is that it's actually going to happen, but there was at least a rumor, and I think Paul Feinbaum might have brought it up to a degree, that Alabama is probably going to try and get out of the Ohio State or a mutual agreement to not play whatever, because it looks as though that playing that game doesn't help you. I agree with that. That makes me happy that we will have an easier path to the playoff. It makes me sad because I was looking forward to going to Columbus. It makes me sad because I was looking forward to going to South Bend. I hate not having these games. I also get why we won't. And it's just, I think this could have been fixed if the selection committee had actually penalized some teams that didn't play tough schedules at some point, but they don't show the propensity to do that. They show that they are probably going to be like, it's a record above everything else. Just like with SMU a couple of years ago, I think Indiana got a bit of a break last year. I don't think necessarily, like, I'd love to say I think Indiana got a break this year, but I don't think I can, because they did beat everybody on their schedule. They did play in the Big Ten, and I give them credit for that. Yeah,
they played a horrifically joke of a non-conference schedule, and they were the best team.
Yeah, it was just coincidental.
Both things can be true.
Yeah, that was coincidental.
Let's, before we start attacking, how about a shout out to the basketball committee that decides who's in the basketball tournament, because they heavily factor strength of schedule and reward teams that play tough schedules in terms of seeding and getting in the NCAA tournament. That's why in November and December, we get to see Alabama play Arizona, Purdue, Illinois, Gonzaga. All of those games are a direct result of the basketball playoff committee rewarding teams for playing a tough strength of schedule. The football committee has consistently, not the last one, all of them have done the complete opposite. They reward you for wins and they punish you for losses. And while they can nitpick here and there and cherry pick and say, no, but this team got in because of who they played, and this team had a higher strength of schedule, there's not nearly enough of that. And the football committee sends the opposite message. The football committee says things like, Texas, you lost to Ohio State. Had you more smartly played a game against Texas San Antonio or North Texas or Texas State, you'd have been in the playoff last year, but you lost to Ohio State, so you're out. Alabama, you scheduled a losable non-conference game on the road. Had you played Samford, you probably would have had a higher seed. Maybe you would have had your first home playoff game at home, but instead you lost a non-conference game, so you had to play on the road. The committee has consistently ignored strength of schedule and allowed teams like SMU in the year before, who did not have a single ranked win, and got into the playoff, where they, of course, lost. It's such a shame that now we don't get to see Alabama play Ohio State. We don't get to see Alabama play Notre Dame. We're going to see Alabama play teams that they beat by 6 touchdowns at home. Why? Because the committee goes to Grapevine and they do nothing but count wins and count losses, which is the same thing first graders could do. I'm not furious about it today. I've been furious about it every year for years, and people have listened to the show for years will remember my 500 rants about this. And this is what it has led to, is the upcoming certain cancellation of Alabama, Ohio State, and Alabama will replace Ohio State with, I'm assuming, someone like Rutgers or Boston College. Nothing against those schools.
Wake Forest.
But that's it. But and by the way, the SEC needs to get rid of that ridiculous rule that you got to play in a tough non-conference game. Not when you move to 9. We've moved to 9 SEC games. That's enough. I think, as far as I'm concerned, play 3 FCS teams. I mean,
I'm 100%.
If it's
100%.
not against the rules, they made us go to 9 SEC games. Just play. No, in all seriousness, I would play an FCS program and 2 group of 5s. And the last 3 national champions have all played schedules like that. The last 3 Big Ten, I think they all played very watered down non-conference games.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. And look, there's going to be some people in the comments saying, "Oh, y'all are just scared of competition," or "I don't want to be scared of competition." That's not what this is about in the least. I want that Ohio State game. Trust me, I've got connections to Columbus, Ohio. I think it'd be magnificent. That said, I would rather win a national championship than just stand on my moral high ground and say, "Yeah, well, we're going to do it even if nobody else does." That's dumb. That's dumb. There's too much at stake. There's too much money at stake.
No one can attack the SEC for playing that schedule when most of the Big Ten is doing it also and has been doing it. And go look at Indiana's schedule before you go complain about anybody in the SEC's.
Well, and that's the thing. If the SEC does it, a lot of the tie-in games, a lot of the games that they do with the bigger conference are going to be the Big Ten, so they'll be doing it by de facto regardless. Now, my guess is Ohio State is probably looking at this going, yeah, we don't mind canceling this either. But my bet is Alabama will get the most heat for it because people love to throw the heat the SEC way, especially Alabama.
The fact of the matter is we're all running a marathon, and people from outside the SEC that hates the SEC, they want the SEC to have to run uphill while everyone else is running on flat ground. They want the SEC to have to run uphill. Of course they do. Of course they do. But it's not fair that the SEC should have to run up a hill when competing in the marathon when everyone else has the flat ground.
I do have a solution. Some people may not like the solution. I'm all for let's play 3 FCS quality teams. Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
If you only were on mute. See, and he did go to mute there until the phone stops ringing.
Yeah, I did. I went. Okay, he's done. He's done now. All right. So I do have a solution. Let me go back to that. What if you play your 3 non-con games in like 4-game intervals in the season? You play one first game of the year, you play one about 4 games later, and then you play one about 4 games later. We already do that one right before the Iron Bowl or whatever, or somewhere in there. And then we do 2 at the beginning of the season. Maybe we spread them out a little bit so you have more coverage. Because I do agree that this is what does kind of suck. You play 3 straight terrible teams to get started.
Right out of the gate.
I do hate that. So, all right.
That does produce a boring September when everyone's counting down to the start of the season. So, I think that the way that Alabama, plays one at the end is helpful. I like playing that FCS game at the end because you do need a break, and from the bumps and the bruises and resting in, injured players. I think that's smart scheduling. I know it's criticized, but I think it's just a smart way to schedule. And by the way, none of this is against any rules. No one's broken any rules at all. So I've never understood the volume of complaints. So
no need for a lawyer. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Until then, roll tide, everybody. I got to go get a phone.
Roll tide.